Hello guys, how's it going? Alex Grumpy on here. Today we got a video on the Scirocco, as you can see there, on the bolt joint. I'm going to show you how to replace the bolt joint. Usually what happens is your seal splits, all the grease comes out and it starts knocking, but as soon as the seal is split, it is an MOT failure. It does happen quite often, unfortunately, on them. So what I'm going to show you today is how to do the job. I mean, personally, I have got 3 different ways of doing this job. It's like a plan A, which is the normal type of job, plan B and plan C, in case everything goes completely wrong. So what can go wrong? Technically for this job, you have got an Allen key there that you're supposed to hold it in to undo the nut, or to do it up obviously, and for that you will have to remove the drive shaft of this side of the hub, which is held in by the bolt. What happens sometimes is when you undo the bolt, the drive shaft stays seized in there and it's a right nightmare to get it out of there. In that case, what I do is I undo the nut as much as I can, because I'm going to show you in a second. What you do is you undo the nut, it comes up and then it hits the drive shaft, so it doesn't do anymore, and that's when it becomes an issue. So you have to knock it out, drop it a little bit, but once you dropped it out of the frame, it starts spinning, so you can't undo the nut, and unless you got very good mole grips or you grind the bits off to lock something on there to hold it, you can't get the nut off of there, which becomes a nightmare. So you have to cut it off. So there's many different ways of doing this, but today, like I said, I'm going to try and show you the correct way, which is removing the nut out of there, sorry, the bolt out of there, moving the drive shaft slightly out of the way and putting the tool in there to lock it in. So if that is something you're interested in, definitely tune in and let's crack on with the job. Right, so this is your bolt joint. As you can see here, you got 3 nuts holding it on at the bottom on your lower arm, and then you got your 80mm nut which holds it on the hub itself. So like I said, this is the 80mm nut. It should be, if it's the original one, and the nuts that you got there, they're 16mm. So you're going to need a dip socket or a spanner to get them off of there. And if you look here, like I said, the clearance is too small to get the nut off of there without getting it out of there. And this is why we will have to remove the drive shaft in this case. So to get the drive shaft out of the way, what you have to do is undo this bolt that you got in there. There can be different sizes as well, but in this case you got multi-spline 24mm on there, and that's what we have to do. To get them undone, guys, they're really tight on there. You're going to need a big bar. So sometimes the best thing to do is put the wheel back on, or if you got someone helping you, you can ask someone to jump in the car, start it up and press and hold the brakes while you're undoing this, because it will be very tight on there. If you're on your own, you can put the car back on the floor, put the wheel on, take the center cap off and put the handbrake on and try and undo it that way. So that's what we're going to do now, get that undone, and hopefully the drive shaft will move out of the way. So once you undone the bolt, I'm just going to show you, it was very tight, guys. Once you've undone it, you have to put it back in, because in most cases drive shaft not just going to slide out. You have to put it back in there. I would spray a bit of WD-40 inside there, make sure you don't go on the discs. Put it back in, 5-6 threads, make sure it's clear, and then what you do is put the socket on there. So make sure you done at least 5 or 6 threads, and then you knock it in there. Hopefully the drive shaft is going to start moving in. So I'm going to undo it a little bit. Yep, that's the drive shaft moving. So grab hold of the drive shaft on the other side. If it doesn't come out all the way, if it's still seized in there, you need to get an extension or something in there and hit it with the hammer to carry on pushing it out. You can just use a socket with an extension on it. Lovely. And that's the drive shaft loose in there now. So once you undo the 3 nuts at the bottom, you'll see that you'll be able to move it around and the drive shaft will come out of the way, so you can get the tool on top of the bolt joint. Before you start pulling the arm down to get past the thread, I do advise disconnecting the level sensor that you got there. So spray with a bit of WD-40 in there and get a similar tool to this and just pop it off of there, just work it off. You might have seen me doing this before when I've done the low range springs. There you go, that's off. Obviously don't forget to put it back on there. While that is still on there, it's going to be completely seized in the hub. So if you're going to try and undo the 80mm nut, it will start undoing. It's not going to start spinning, only start spinning when it becomes loose out of there. So I would use this opportunity to get the spanner on there. Get the spanner on there, undo it all the way. Just makes it easier for you. If it's tight, just double up on the spanner. You can lock the steering wheel by removing the key of the ignition. In this case, it's already coming undone. There you go. There we are, that's the nut off. All we got left is knock the ball joint out of there. Alright, so I've started a couple of nuts on there because I haven't got the ball joint splitter tool. I'm just going to give it a pull down and hit it with the hammer on that bit, the part of the hub, and that should release the ball joint out of there. So let me just apply a bit of pressure on it, pulling it down. And that's the ball joint out of there, so that's all good. So now that we've got this out of the way, let's get it out of there. That's the old one, and don't forget they are marked left and right because they're slightly different, so you need to make sure you got the right size. So as you can see, my new one has got L there for left. Just have a look at them, make sure they're the same. The thread might be a bit longer on the new one, but it doesn't matter as long as it's clear from drive shaft. But yeah, it looks pretty spot on to me. I do advise doing the tracking after replacing these items anyway. So all you have to do now is get it in there. Now don't forget, this will be stiff in the beginning. It does move, but it will be stiff in the beginning. So I would start it up slightly. And depending how you're going to do this job, you can start the nut already. You're going to have a new nut on it. And then obviously they will have to locate in the arm as well. So we'll start the nut up now. So here we got the new nut. Start it up. It's only going to go so far. And obviously at this stage you can remove the drive shaft, get the tool in there and do it up. Right, so I moved the drive shaft a bit more out of the way. Don't think I'll have to take it completely out of there, but we'll see. So the nut, just do it up, hold this for now. Do it up as much as you can just with the spanner. There you go, that's perfect. Didn't actually have to put the Allen key in there because it didn't start spinning. It's getting tight now. I will put the torque settings for this nut and for the bottom nuts in the description below, don't worry about it. And also the bolt that holds the drive shaft in the hub, I'll put the torque settings for that as well. So I will do it up a bit more later. It's pretty tight already as it is, but at this stage, now they got tight, you know that you're not going to need to put the tool in there anymore because it is, I mean, it's pretty spot, I think we're pretty much there anyway. Yeah, that's pretty good. So with the new ball joint, you usually get the new nuts anyway. So all we have to do now is guide the drive shaft back in there. You might have to turn it a little bit, readjust it. There you go, it's starting to go in. That's in. And obviously what we have to do now is turn the steering, adjust it so you can get the threads back in there and get the nuts on there. As you can see, it's moving on there free. So as you can see, I've turned the steering straight on the other side and now they're pretty much aligned. Just give it a little wiggle and they start going back in. That's better. Get the new nuts on there. In this case I got some washers as well. Start them up. Once they're done up, you can tighten this one up a bit more now. I mean, it was pretty tight already. Yeah, that's tight enough. And as you can see, it is clear of the drive shaft there. Just double check that obviously, so the thread is not too long, but it's definitely clear off of there, so that's all good. They're done up now. And don't forget to pop the sensor back on, spray a bit of WD-40 on there, and use water pump grips or something to squeeze it on there, because it is a little bit tight. Just to show you, locate it on there, spray it, and then squeeze it on there. So now that we're all done under there, everything's done up properly, we're gonna put the bolt back in. And this is where you need to know that in some cases, depending on the bolt that you got, you might need a new bolt. They do recommend putting a new bolt on there. In my case, I will be reusing it. And again, it also will depend on the torque settings that you have to do, the tightening torques, depending on the bolt, on the head that you got as well. But in this case, the one that got little cuts there, are locking cuts, and this type of a head, this will be 70 Newton meters with the wheel off, up in the air. And then you will need to put the wheel back on, take the center cap off, and do it up further 90 degrees to completely torque it up. So clean it all up in there, start it up. In my case, to do just 70 Newton meters, you're going to put the screwdriver in there, or ask someone to jump in and press the foot brake. Do 70 Newton meters first. So you'll see as you tighten it up, the drive shaft goes in a little bit more. Just get it on there. So I've got the socket on there as well. So I already got 70 Newton meters on my torque wrench. Get it on there. So obviously at this stage you ask someone to press the brakes, or you put the screwdriver in there and torque it up. There you go, that's 70 Newton meters. And what we're going to do now obviously is put the wheel back on and then do further 90 degrees. Right, so the car is on the ground now. Like I said, we've done 70 Newton meters already, and I've marked it up. So the door is on top of the bolt, and it needs to line up with this one, which is 90 degrees to tighten it up completely. So that's what we're going to do now. Put the handbrake on and do the 90 degrees. Right, let's get that on there. So the wheel is back on, I've done it up, 90 degrees done up. So like I said, 70 Newton meters in this case, plus 90 degrees. And obviously to do the wheel up, you need 120 Newton meters on each bolt there, and that is done up as well. So I think the job is done. Just double check that everything's done up and where it's supposed to be. And I do recommend, after doing jobs like this, especially something to do with the suspension and steering, I do recommend having the tracking done afterwards as well, because it will help. Because sometimes when you do the jobs like this or put new bits on, that can be slightly different. There's a slight mill or two out, and that will affect your toe in or toe out, or even the camber. So yeah, I definitely recommend doing the tracking after a job like this. So yeah, I think this is it. Pretty much done. I hope you enjoyed the way that I'm showing you today. I will be doing future videos showing you the different way, but for that you will need tools to cut the obviously nut off, or to grind the actual ball joint so you can grip it with the mold grips, to do it the other way without taking the drive shaft out. But for now, I'll show you my first and obviously the recommended way of doing this job. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, comment below, like the video, and I'll see you soon. Bye.